Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first of many Insight Studios interviews, and today we're interviewing a very special guest. This is the winner, if I do recall correctly, of the Esok Winter Tournament in 2015. He's one of the founding members of ESOC, currently on the business team for them. And what we are going to be doing is we're going to be asking them a few pre-decided questions, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience and allow you guys to ask any questions that you might have. We collected some on the forums, and we're also going to do it live in the chat, and there'll be instructions in the chat as to how to do that. And so without further ado, here's H2O.
Hello.
Alright, so let's go ahead and let's get the first question. And basically, that is, how did you find out about Age of Empires? When did you start playing?
Yeah, so I started playing when I was like 12 years old, I would say. I got Age of Empires 2, like the expansion and everything, in a CD set for my birthday, and I started playing it then. Got online pretty quickly on MSN Gaming Zone, and then when Age of Empires 3 came out, I was like 15 or 16 at the time, I think. And I switched over and have been playing online ever since.
Gotcha.
Since the game started, for the most part. So.
Yeah. So, when did you start playing it competitively and take it more seriously instead of just a game that you play in your pastime?
Yeah. So when I was playing Age of Empires 2, I played a lot on MSN Gaming Zone, and I always wanted to get higher rated, but never really could pull it off. It's quite hard when you're like 12 or 13 to have like this skills to be able to do that. So, but by the time Age of Empires 3 came out, I was probably around the PR 32-ish level at that time when I started playing, and I started wanting to play it more seriously. And eventually just kind of broke through when people were doing Spain FFs all the time. It was when I started to get really good, actually, at the time.
Gotcha. So, how did you get connected with Esok? I guess in your case, you were one of the people that helped make it happen, but how did that all come about?
Yeah, so ESO community wasn't really the intention originally. It was actually Mito had messaged me, and he was messaging a lot of people to try to get people to come back for a tournament that him and who's now Stanley Winston were trying to organize. And it was just going to be like a one-time tournament. I think the prize pool at that time was maybe $200 or $300, or maybe it was $500, I don't know, something around that range. And it was a one-time kind of event. And then they just had asked me also to talk about rules a little bit. I offered to help there. And we had no website. There wasn't the concept of ESOC even at the time. Through a stroke of dumb luck or genius, you could call it, Stanley Winston registered our forum as ESO-community. And at the time, we were like, this makes no sense. It's not really even. We're just trying to run a tournament here. It's not really a community site. And the name kind of stuck, and we ended up trying to make the forums a little bit more than that. And so. That's kind of how I got involved. I was there, one of the first 3 people right from the get-go.
Gotcha. Would you say it was like, how difficult was it getting that first tournament going? Was there a lot of scheduling issues and things of that nature?
It actually didn't turn out to be too difficult to do, because that first tournament was the spring tournament that we did, right? So it was a lot of work more getting the website up, but we had a lot of energy and like kind of passion around it at the time, because we had like 5 or 6 people that were all just really like putting a lot of time designing our theme, getting the tournament brackets all set up and all of that. So it was actually, I would say that the hardest one that we ran was maybe the second one, which I think was the summer one. That one we had a lot less energy, because we had just finished up doing one, and it was just a lot of work to keep going on it.
Gotcha. And then the next question was, what role do you serve in the SOC? What's your job, per se?
So, I've done, I guess I'll kind of talk through what I've done overall. Like, for a while, I've done things on the technical side. Like when we migrated the website, some people may remember that. There was a lot of work to be done to kind of keep all of our data and migrate it over. I was working with that. Me and Musket 925 actually set up the original framework to make anti-cheat and all that possible. So I was helping out with that. Also, like when you get an automatic update, or you see the top 10 ELO, or any of the tournament stuff, all the tournament bracket framework, I helped set that up too. So I've been doing technical things. I also helped out running the events for a while at one point. So I was running, like I helped run the first one. And now at this point, I'm more just kind of, I don't have as much time as I used to. So I've been more just helping out with like the big picture kind of things, right? So like helping getting the team built up and getting people on the moderating team. The recent restructure to community team, that sort of stuff.
Gotcha. If you could just like ballpark a number, how many man hours would you say went into Esok to get it to the point where it is today?
Geez, that's a good question. It's probably, a thousand. I would say thousands of hours. I don't have an hour tracking on everyone else. I just know that a lot of people at different times have been putting a lot of effort into the site. There's a lot. We have a lot of different features and capabilities that are all kind of built from the ground up. So it's pretty cool to see. I mean, we wouldn't have expected it. Starting out with just let's have one tournament and have a website to schedule it on. Kind of turned into the hub for our entire game, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And the next question was, what keeps you engaged in the game and, by extension, the community?
Yeah, so I played this game for for 10 years, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I guess what keeps me around is I know a lot of people here. I have a lot of friends from the community, and it's just nice to be able to play a game that I love every so often. Who knows what shape the game might be in today if we hadn't all kind of come together and started keeping it alive, right? It's arguably more active than it was 2.5 years ago when we started this. So it's exciting, right?
Yeah, for sure. It seems like we get an influx of players every time we get one of those Steam sales coming.
Yeah, exactly. And trying to capture some of those is always helpful with the site.
Mm-hmm. That's actually another question, kind of a spin-off from what role you serve and how the site's developed, and where do you think we get most of the members from? What platform do you think they come from?
I think it's hard to know for sure, but we do have a lot of different avenues. I think one of the most successful things that we've done, and one of the earliest marketing things that we kind of did, was the putting ESOC in front of all the maps and kind of bringing Garja on as for a while he was just making maps that were great maps, but we kind of worked with him to distribute. I think that has brought a lot of people in, just because people play on those maps, they like the maps, and obviously the name's in it, right? So they come to the site and download the maps, and then they find a whole lot more. I also think that some of the Twitch streams helped a lot. When we were streaming on Age of Empires, that also helped us bring in people, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. In my case, how I found the community, I was just searching for strategies on Google, and I came across agecommunity.com, and I realized that there's nobody there, and so I need to find a different site, and so I just kind of kept going through the Google searches, and I found ESOC via that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. One of the bigger challenges that communities like this, at least in old, because our game's kind of old now. If you look at League of Legends or newer games, it's a lot easier to find a community and get engaged because the developers are kind of owning the community. But in our case, it's very hard to penetrate into PR25 and lower rankings where players are not playing as often. They're not as aware of the community that's around them, so to speak, right? So they're just kind of logging in and playing, and so it's always been hard to get into that group, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then the next question is, what are your New Year's resolution essentially for Esok? Where do you want to see it go by the end of 2017?
I think the biggest thing that we could do would be to get Twitch partnership. There's a lot of different things that we're working on, but I think a lot of them kind of roll into getting Twitch partnership. So it would be nice to have us, doing something every weekend on ESOC TV, and kind of showing Twitch that we could be a partner. That gives us an influx of money, so we can run bigger events, more events, and it also allows us to be less reliant on donations. And there's also, the financials of running the site, which we don't use donations to fund any of the monthly run costs of the site or anything like that. So. For
sure. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to some of the questions that were submitted by viewers, and we'll start with the ones that were put on that forum post. I think most of them did come from that. I don't know if you already chose any of them or not yourself. I'm gonna pull it up on my phone here.
I have not. I'm ready to be surprised.
For sure. All right. All right, here we go. So the first question is... this one's almost a sad question, but I guess in a sense you can use this to reassure the community here. And it's from Nico Burke. I don't know if I said the name right, and I apologize to you guys who might say your name wrong. But he's asking if Mr. Waterboy is afraid that the game and the community will die, and all the efforts that you've put into improving your own skill in the game and in developing the community aren't worth it because nobody plays the game anymore.
I think it's not really about keeping the game going forever. I think we all know that eventually all good things come to an end, but I think that what we've done is extended the life of the game significantly. I kind of alluded to that earlier. I think without the site and all the efforts, I'm not sure what the community would even look like right now. So, and we're always seeing new players come back. Lately there's been Juiz come back. Like The Last Samurai came back. Greenie 12. So obviously Sam's going to play again pretty soon. So I think that having the site has already been a success as far as keeping the community alive. And so I don't think any of the efforts would really be kind of in vain, if you would.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like every time we do these seasonal tournaments with ESOC, we see like a big influx in the amount of people that are online and all the old, more experienced players coming back and like practicing more and things of that nature.
Yep, and there's even people who took a break for one or two tournaments like Blackstar OP. It's just kind of a platform for the game's not hyper competitive. It's small, so for these guys who are good, being able to just have a place to come back if they want to play and have a challenge, if you would, for a couple months, we have a great platform set up for it. So
yeah, for sure. The next question comes from Akichi Mitsuhide. Again, sorry if I pronounced those names wrong, guys. And he's asking what the greatest tournament match that you have ever played is.
I think if I had to choose one, it would probably be... I'd have to say it's probably the World Cyber Games last game that I played against Brunt in the finals. But before I talk about that, I would say the best series I played was probably with Blackstar. If you look at that series, it was I think it was a best of 9, and it went back. Each game was back and forth, like win one, lose one for the most part. And all the games were really scrappy and close. So that series was great. But the finals game for me was the best game that I've played in. Obviously, because there's a lot of pressure on the line. There was, I think, riding on that one game alone was something like $5,000 difference in outcome, right? So, not to mention the prestige of it. But the game itself, I only had like 2 or 3 gold mines on Saguenay, and he had like 6 or 7, I think. And obviously, he's the best player of all time. And I had spent months preparing exactly on those maps, and like on 3 maps with only Japan mirrors. So you're talking, months of playing the same matchup over and over. So for me, that was the best match, and the even better part about it was that it was like a 25-minute game in which when my gold mines ran out, I had managed to build up enough of a lead that I could survive him kind of pushing into me with shipping flaming arrows to his daimyo, that sort of stuff, and I was able to turn it around. So it was an exciting game to watch too.
Yeah, for sure. Those back-to-back games and the fights going both ways are always really fun to watch. All right, the next one is from Tadir12, and he's asking if you are going to participate in the next Esok 1v1 tourney.
That I don't know yet. I'd probably lean towards no. I've in the past been doing kind of a one-on, one-off sort of thing, so I'm kind of due for a break.
Yeah.
I am probably playing in this invitational coming up, so that'll be another chance to see me play. When I haven't played much since the finals, so when I do play, you can also see it'll almost always be on someone's stream somewhere. Either the Korean streams, or I think I played once against Give You Anxiety. I did smurf him, but I don't know. It's fun. It's kind of fun to play on stream and be able to watch the chat and the reactions if you can't play much, right? So
for sure. And then a spin-off of that question would be, when you do decide that you're going to participate in one of these tournaments, how much time do you put into training? And do you train really hard at the beginning, or do you just kind of take it easy at the beginning and you start to train as you progress, or how much work goes into that?
I would say the problem I have right now is I have a lot going on, time-wise overall in my life, and so usually to practice for the matches, I only get maybe one evening, or for every match I maybe get 1 evening or 1 day if I'm lucky. So for the last tournament, I think I practiced maybe 8 hours at most for any given match, and it's usually pretty even throughout. So it really just depends on how long I'm playing, how much time I have at the time, right? So.
And the next one comes from Peace a Lot, and he's asking what you think of the early skirmishers card for France.
um, there's this weird place in the French mirror meta. If you, in the colonial French mirror meta is the only time I've ever seen it be used to any sort of effect, and that's like, after all the cards have been sent, and you're in like late colonial, just being able to make 10 or 15 skirmishers runs just got a lot of money. It seems quite good. At the same time, I do have this feeling that maybe you could do Expos to beat it as well. Overall, not a strong card, but might have that one niche of like if you're trapped in colonial against someone else who's also trapped, then maybe it's good.
I could see that, yeah. All right, and then the next one. Oh, okay, he has 3. I don't know if we'll do all 3 or not. Let's see. Okay, so this is a good question. Would you be confident enough to beat Blackstar OP in a rematch?
That's a good question. I think I could definitely beat him. I think I can always, manage to beat anyone if I practice enough and have the right strategies prepared. So I think I could do it. If we looked at like the last tournament, I think I probably would have been able to beat him because he wasn't around playing. But now I think he's playing quite a bit more than I am. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so.
Let's see. Could you compete, and this is from the same guy, I didn't actually mention his name, is Eulergas, if I pronounced it right or not. He's asking if you can compete in StarCraft, or at least Age of Empires 2, if you put enough time into it.
I think Age of Empires 2 I could. So when I played Age of Empires 2 when I was younger, I was on the way up. Like if I think about Starsky and a couple other people I know, they have relatively high ratings in Age of Empires 2. StarCraft 2, I did play in beta quite a bit. I got like 4th place in like one of the first beta tournaments. That was like $1,000 tournament. And I was doing well there at the time. I didn't have the interest. At this point, I would have to put a lot of time into it, right? Because the community is so developed, and there's a lot of people playing that game, 12 hours a day. So I think it's just a matter of time. But yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So the next one is, and it's from Groggy3, and he's asking if you use a gaming mouse when you play Age of Empires, and if you do, which hotkeys do you put on it?
Okay. I do have a gaming mouse, so to speak. It's maybe not gaming by today's standards. I'll show you the Max 518. I always have one with me pretty much everywhere I go, actually. I've been using that mouse since I was 16. I actually don't put anything on any of the buttons. I just use it for the grip and the way it feels. I've just been using it for so long, it's what I'm used to.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any opinion on gaming mice? As it may be, I actually use, I don't know if you can see it because I don't have it set up, but I use one that has 12 buttons on the left side of it, and I'm trying to set hotkeys on all of them and remember to use them.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what works for you. My thought is that most of the hotkeys can be handled just with your left hand. I mean, having your right hand you can't really afford to be doing really good drag boxing and moving of things. Like there's a lot that happens on the mouse hand without even putting hotkeys there. So I think my gut tells me that it would probably be better not to overuse it. It can be nice for things like idle villagers or maybe one of those hotkeys you press all the time. Maybe probably not a attack move. Things that you'd want to use it when you're not using the mouse already. Like if you're not trying to drag box or right click or attack, then that would be a good hotkey to put on the mouse, right?
And this next question is from the same guy, and he's asking if you believe there will ever be an Age of Empires 4, even if the original studio that made Age of Empires 3 doesn't exist anymore.
I'm not sure necessarily. I think that Age of Empires Online may have been enough to kill the the franchise for a long time. Microsoft just doesn't seem to have it together really when it comes to making games in general. So I'm a little doubtful, but always looking to be surprised.
Gotcha. And this one's funny. I'm going to go ahead and include it, even if it might be considered kind of silly. And it's from Jakey Boy TH, and he's asking if you have ever taken performance-enhancing drugs to increase your APM to an unfair advantage.
I never have, but there are concerns people do that, right? They take like ADD medications to focus.
Gotcha. What about coffee? Do you drink coffee before like a tense match?
Yeah, lately I was in a routine where I was actually drinking a Red Bull before each game, which is quite bad, but it works. Red Bull really does work for me. It gives me a lot of energy. So I usually was drinking a Red Bull before each one of the games, and lately with how much time I have to practice and how, like when I'm playing on stream, for example, not necessarily trying as hard as I could be. Like that plus the Red Bull was making a big difference in, like when I showed up to a tournament match versus just any other game I was playing. So.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of that, how much do these competitive games drain you? Like, how quickly do you get tired in just one sitting, from playing maybe a best of 5 to a best of 9?
Yeah, I think for me, luckily, I don't really get tired from it. I get a lot of energy from playing in the matches. I think some of the people who know me well, like maybe Mito probably would know, like I get, after winning a match or something, I'll just like unmute my microphone and like shout, like give a little shout of victory kind of thing. I get a lot of energy from the tournament games for sure. So.
Gotcha. Let's see. This next question comes from Jerome, and he is asking, "What's your position on using your phone to Skype with your minions, as he puts it, while you're driving?"
I have had a habit of Discord while driving kind of thing. He's referring back to when we used to have Skype groups. It's probably not the safest, Jerome, but I'm still probably going to do it anyway.
And then his next question...
There's a lot of red lights out there.
Yeah. His next question is, who is your favorite Dutch media team member?
This seems like a loaded question.
It does.
I'm going to go with MC Jim because I feel like he's the only one who wouldn't ask me that question.
That's a good point. It's actually kind of funny now that I think about it. There's a Dutch monopoly on the media team.
Yeah, that when we first made the media team, there was, I can't remember which one of those guys I had talked to first, but it was like, all three of those guys are great friends, and they were all kind of interested in working on the media thing, so it was just like a perfect fit, right? They all collaborated really well and just kind of took control of it and did their own thing and did it really well. Yeah.
Let's see, and the next question comes from Dark Knight 1698, and he's asking if you can stream more.
Maybe I can stream more. I'm just struggling to find the time to do it, so we'll see what happens. Maybe after the 2v2 tournament, I'll stream every so often.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Lately, I've been just kind of hopping onto other people's streams and playing, so.
Yeah. This is another one from Jerome, and he's asking, when Mito says he's bad over Skype or Discord while you two are playing together, do you silently agree with him?
Sometimes I don't even. Sometimes I'll vocally agree with him if he's messed up bad enough. But overall, no. I mean, he's a great player, so he's hard on himself. But I think sometimes he's hard on himself, and then it makes him play worse, which is hard to see.
Yeah. Then we'll do one more from Jerome, and he's asking what your favorite build order is.
Right now, so I go through phases. That's a great question. Right now, my favorite build order is definitely the India Elephant build order. So in every game I've played since the tournament has just been basically howding people. Actually, on a Smurf account, I did the how to build against the bounty hunter guy on the Korean stream.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to use that build to beat Mito's China, and he can't do it. And so I beat him in an India mirror where I took like all 3 TPs on Manchuria, and it was in an India mirror, and he couldn't kill any of the TPs, and somehow I just like got so many how to. It's a lot of fun because you get to hit and run with them, and at the end of the game, the goal is to see if you can get like a 10-to-1 kill loss ratio or a 20-to-1, that sort of thing.
Would you consider that to be like the new meta for India, or is that more of like a troll kind of build?
I think it's only good if you don't know it's coming. A lot of civs can mass skirms and kind of prepare for it. So I would say it's not really new meta, but I think it can be executed against a lot of people, and you could easily get PR 35, for example, with that build. I think it's good enough to beat majors and lieutenant colonels, I think. Yeah. Which surprised me.
Yeah. The next one is from Pessalot, and he's asking what your opinion on the Aztec Fast Industrial is, and then I guess he assumes your answer, and he asks why you think it's broken as heck.
So I played it on I played it on stream a few times. It seems really good. I think it probably is too good, but until someone can actually and kind of prove it. I'm not sure. I think Diaroga is probably the only person who's close enough to being able to do that. There's a lot of different variations you have to know. Like you have to know when to stay colonial, when to go fortress, when to go industrial. Do you stay in fortress forever and use the card in fortress age because it's still kind of good there, like that sort of thing, right? So if you know I have this feeling that if someone put in enough time and knew all the variations super well, then it would probably be really good. We still have to see it. I think it's broken because, and I think it's broken because cover like the Explorer is just way too strong. Like so, if you can get to a point where there's always a way to kind of make that card work, whether it's in Fortress or Industrial, then you can just kind of like send in endless 24 mace, make a few Eagle Knights, Skull Knights get you through the transition, and then your Explorer just makes it so you never really lose a fight. Like I think I almost beat someone's Portuguese that was by 30 minutes just using this strategy, and I had no idea what I was doing. So, and I think it was like Wicked Cossack who I did that verse. So, seems pretty good.
This next one, I'll let you judge whether or not you want to give an exact answer, but it's from SD Sanft, and he's asking how much money Age of Empires 3 has earned you, and if that's your main incentive for playing.
Most of my money earnings from this game came from like the time when I was playing World Cyber Games. I think I made anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. Most of it from the one WCG. At this point, I don't play for money at all. So I think I took one prize from this tournament. So from all the tournaments that I've placed in, and I used that to kind of break even on funding the site for the year and a half that I did. So overall, no money incentives at this point, which is one of the reasons why it's good to have me kind of keeping control of the money in some ways, because I have no real, and I'm not really hung up on the money and don't really care much about it for what we're working with. So it'll always be safe.
All right, this one, there's several from this guy, so I'll just pick a couple here. His name's Challenger Marco, and he's asking if your parents encouraged your playing games in your early life, or if they scolded you and told you to concentrate on your schoolwork.
I think it was a combination of both. I think they weren't against me playing, but they were maybe against how much I played. And it was a different time back then, right? There's a lot more. I think now there's a lot more of a sort of professional scene, advertising, all that's kind of there. So there's something to point at and say, look, this is what I want to do. Whereas for me, it was just kind of like almost like a hobby, right? So I may have put a little bit too much time into the hobby.
For sure. Then a follow-up question from the same guy is, what was your ambition as a child? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a kid, I actually always wanted to work for IBM, which is what my dad does.
Gotcha.
I actually ended up doing that when I got out of college, so I got to live up my childhood dream.
That's funny, because his follow-up to that follow-up was whether or not Age of Empires spoiled your childhood dream, but it sounds like it did not.
No, it didn't.
Alright, let's go to the next one. And we're getting to the end of the ones on the forums, so we'll see if the live stream has yielded us any. Actually, that looks like that was the last one for that. So yeah, let's go ahead and go to the live stream, see what we got there. And for those of you that are watching right now, I did post the instructions into that. I'll go ahead and post them again so you guys can see. What you do is you type !point Q and then question, and that's how you enter your questions in. So I'm going to go ahead and pull one of the ones that have been entered, and I'm going to be a little bit selective here because I know some of you guys might be putting some silly ones in there. Alright, this one's from Jakey Boy, and he's asking what your favorite in-game unit is.
Probably the Skirmisher. I like units that have low load animations. So I love controlling Skirmishers and spreading them out. Other one is also maybe the Villager, just because it's quite fun to use them in base defense situations.
Yeah, for sure. This one's from Hitty, and he's asking why you picked H2O as your name.
So at the time I was playing Age of Empires 2, I was doing I was playing around with usernames, and one of them I made was H2O. And then when I started Age of Empires 3, it was actually quite a painful point for people. You only got to have one name. I didn't even realize it. And so I made mine underscore H2O. And the underscore was there because I thought that when you got a clan tag, it would append directly to the name, because when people would make usernames, you could make as many names as you'd want, and you could have one for every clan that you were ever in, right? So you would have like your clan tag underscore your username. So that's why the underscore's there. Actually, it was in some ways a fluke that at the time that was the username I was using. People were changing usernames like every couple weeks at that point. So
if you could, would you take the underscore out?
not anymore. I think it's kind of a character of the name. I like it quite a bit. It's got a unique feel to it. So I don't think I would change the name at all, actually, at this point.
For sure. The next one's from Project W, and he's asking if you missed the early 2005, 6, and 7 days of Age of Empires, and what your best memory from those days is, aside from winning WCG.
The best memory for me, I do miss those days. I think the best memory for me was when I first started playing in that PR 33-ish range, and I was like 1800 on ELO at the time. And I asked, I got into a clan with a couple of guys, and they had a website. That's the clan I'm still in today, the FSE one. I still know all the guys from that clan. Either talk to them infrequently or quite often. So I think that's kind of my best memory. We won our TSL together. We still have all the same inside jokes from when we were, when I was 16. So good memories, right?
For sure. This one's from Lunatic Fringe, and he's asking who your favorite opponent is and why.
I think right now my favorite opponent's probably Mito. I think we both kind of can check our egos at the door when we play, and it's just kind of it's more about what's right tactically and strategically, and it's a lot of fun science going into it. I also like playing against Sam a lot. Obviously, there was a period of time at which we were very close and competing quite intensely. Still good friends with Sam to this day, right? So another good friend. Usually anyone who I've played a lot of games with and become good friends with are my favorites.
And this one is from in 1850, and he's asking, he put it in quotation marks, I'm assuming you said it before. He's asking why your Brits are weak and why they only work in mirrors.
I don't know why. I think part of that might come back to the favorite unit thing with the skirmishers. Like Longbow have a load animation. For whatever reason, when I play Brit, I just don't win. I mean, if you look at the ELO statistics, my lowest win percent civ is British. I have a reasonably good British mirror build order, but I also do lose British mirrors. I legitimately lost to Reese 321. He played just better than I did in the mirror and beat me. Not that he's a bad player, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know why, which is kind of funny. I just know that definitely don't play Brits outside the mirror, and it's just not a strong suit of mine. So,
would you say that's specific to the EP maps or the RE maps, or does it not really matter?
I think it's a lifetime shortcoming of mine. So, never really been a top civ, and ironically, that's the first civ I played. So if you look at my my home city, there's one that's called _Ryan_ and that's my British city, and that was the first one I ever made. I think all the rest of them are just named after the default names. So started with that, but never got good at it.
Yeah. And unless they put in another question or two, that's all we have for the submitted ones that I chose. And I actually had a couple questions for you myself. And the first of which is if you could pick 3 tips that you would give to a player of any level that would improve their gameplay, what would they be?
Those are good questions. I think we'll do one for each level, I guess. I think if you were in kind of the lower level, I think the most important thing would be to focus on always making villagers and just making sure that you're spending your resources. Even if your army's kind of sitting around a little bit, just being able to have a lot of stuff out's great. In the middle level, I think that a lot of the shortcomings comes more from kind of tactically. Like, what am I doing with my army? What's my game plan? Am I controlling resources? And then I think at the highest level, the biggest tip is to just kind of try to make the most out of every unit that you have, because at that point everyone's macroing well and for the most part moving around the map well. So trying to be a little bit more surprising and trying to kind of pick the right moment to engage and grab an extra unit here or there. Those kind of things are what you got to be thinking about.
For sure. And then my next one was how you feel about the state of balance with the current EP patch, and if you think it's moving in the right direction.
I would say the only kind of gripe I have about the current direction that we're heading in is that I'm not a big fan of Ottoman and Russia as well being necessarily as strong as they are. I think we saw a lot of upsets because of that. But in general, I think balance is moving in the right direction. I think there's probably a couple of light tweaks that could be made there Ottoman maybe needs to be too weak to play. Ottoman needs to be maybe too weak to play, but Russia definitely should have a place. Just it maybe needs to be a little bit harder to, as of right now, you can just kind of set up a tower, like what I've been calling it, like a tower rack, right? You just build a blockhouse wherever you want and without being stopped, and you just kind of do whatever you want, and it's up to the other person to stop you, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then I had one more question myself, and that was what your favorite map on the RE is, and your favorite map on the Esok maps is.
My favorite RE map is probably Saguenay, followed by Siberia, and then EP-wise, I would say it's a tough one. There's so many good maps. I really like Manchuria. I'll go with that. Manchuria is probably one of my favorites.
Gotcha. All right, and looks like that's all the audience and myself have as far as questions. Oh, wait, there's one more. Let's see. Looks like a couple more came in.
Yeah, my phone battery is dangerously low.
All right, so we'll do just a couple more then.
You have to move and charge.
Okay, so Hitty says if you could add one unit to any civ, what would that unit be?
Huh. I guess it means like take a unit from another civ and move it. Huh. I think that it would be kind of interesting to give the Dragoon to Germany. The civ would just become so strong, I think. I think that would be interesting to see just how big of a difference it makes getting the free cav, and how big a difference it makes to actually have anti-cav as Germany. Would be interesting.
Gotcha. Here's one. This one is from Fightin' Frenchman, and he's asking, what made you come back to the game after leaving for a while?
What made me come back originally, probably around the ESOC time. That was because of the tournament, right? So Mito had reached out to me and asked me to play, and then also asked me to talk about rules and all that, and so that's what got me back into it. And what's kept me around has just been the site, right? So. For
sure. And he follow-up question from that. He asks, what your favorite Age of Empires 3 podcast is.
My favorite podcast is probably the. I know this is a loaded question, so I'm not going to fall into the trap. I'll say it's the Zuda Interjection podcast that happened that one time. That was a great podcast.
The one that happened once.
Yeah, because I know someone's trying to get some free advertising here. So.
All right. Sir Colin, he says, realistically, honestly, where do you see ESOC in 2 years?
That's a good question. I think it's really going to depend on how this year goes. I think the interview here, like Inside Studios, all of that's a big part of it. I think, if there's success there and we have kind of this funnel to keep getting people involved in the site and keep going, it could last for a while. So yeah, we'll know in a year.
Yeah, and I guess a slightly loaded question from my end is I was going to ask what your opinion is on the recent telethon.
Oh, that telethon's fantastic. I think people weren't really sure what to expect, and it was great to see the full 24 hours, and obviously the results were great. So $1,800 for charity. I think it was $1,806 for charity. That's great. Yeah,
it was an interesting ordeal there. Shout out to Fightin' Frenchman for streaming for that long, and he did make a promise to do it for 48 hours next time, so we'll see how that goes down.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Alright, so thank you for coming on to the interview and for answering all these questions that we decided to throw at you.
Yeah, of course. Always happy to talk and answer some questions.
Absolutely. Alright, so thank you, Evan, for tuning in, and this will, of course, be uploaded to the YouTube, and we'll just go on with the next one from there. All right, over and out.